I never imagined my life would turn out like this. When I married Sarah, I thought we'd grow old together, watching our children and grandchildren play in the backyard. But life has a way of surprising you, sometimes in the most painful ways. Sarah and I had been married for 12 years. We moved to our quiet suburban neighborhood 10 years ago, excited to raise our kids in a safe and friendly environment. Our neighbors were great, and one of them, Jack, became a good friend. We would often have barbecues, play poker, or just sit on the porch drinking beer and talking about life. His wife, Emily, was lovely too. She and Sarah became fast friends, always organizing playdates for the kids and having girls' nights out. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. I started noticing little changes in Sarah about a year ago. She became more distant, more secretive. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, was now always with her, locked with a password I didn't know. She started going out more, saying she was meeting Emily for dinner or drinks. At first I thought nothing of it. They were best friends after all. But as the months went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One night after the kids were asleep, I decided to confront her. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up from her book, a hint of worry in her eyes. "What's wrong?" "I just feel like you've been distant lately. Is everything okay?" She sighed, putting her book down. "It's just work, John. I'm stressed." I wanted to believe her, but there was something in her tone that made me uneasy. "Are you sure that's all it is?" "Yes, John, stop worrying so much," she replied, forcing a smile. I tried to push my doubts aside, convincing myself that it was just my imagination. But things didn't improve. If anything, they got worse. Sarah's late nights became more frequent, and her excuses less believable. My suspicion grew, and I found myself checking her phone when she was in the shower, searching for any clue that could explain her behavior. But she was careful. There were no incriminating messages or calls. Then one night, I decided to follow her. She said she was going to Emily's house for a girls' night. I waited until she left, then grabbed my coat and keys, and quietly followed her. My heart pounded in my chest as I tailed her car through the neighborhood. But instead of turning towards Emily's house, she drove to Jack's place. I parked a few houses down and watched as she got out of the car, looking around nervously before heading inside. My stomach churned. What was she doing at Jack's house? Emily was supposed to be out of town visiting her parents. I waited for what felt like hours, my mind racing with possibilities. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up to the house and peered through the living room window. What I saw made my blood run cold. Sarah and Jack were sitting on the couch, their bodies pressed close together. He kissed her neck, and she laughed softly, running her fingers through his hair. It was like a scene from a nightmare. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Rage boiled up inside me, and I banged on the door, startling them both. Sarah jumped up, her face pale with shock. Jack stood looking guilty and panicked. "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted. Sarah tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Jack stepped forward, raising his hands defensively. "John, it's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" I scoffed. "It looks like you've been screwing my wife." Sarah finally found her voice. "John, please let me explain." "Explain? Explain how you've been cheating on me with our neighbor?" I could feel my hands shaking, my vision blurring with tears of anger and betrayal. "It just happened," she said, her voice trembling. "We didn't mean for it to. It just happened." I turned away, unable to look at either of them. "I can't believe this. I can't believe you would do this to me, to our family." "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry." I didn't know what to do. My world had just been shattered, and I felt like I was falling into a dark abyss. I walked out of the house, slamming the door behind me, and drove aimlessly through the night, trying to process what had just happened. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together, and the pain was almost unbearable. Sarah tried to talk to me, to explain, but I couldn't face her. I moved into the guest room, unable to share the same bed with her anymore. Our kids, Emma and Liam, sensed that something was wrong. They asked why Mommy and Daddy weren't talking, why I was sleeping in the guest room, but I couldn't find the words to explain. How do you tell your children that the life they knew, the family they trusted, was falling apart because their mother had betrayed their father? Days turned into weeks, and the tension in the house became suffocating. Sarah and I spoke only when necessary. Our conversations stilted and cold. I threw myself into my work, trying to drown out the pain and confusion. But every time I saw Sarah, the wounds reopened, and the anger surged anew. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, Sarah approached me in the kitchen. "John, we need to talk. We can't go on like this." I looked up from the sink where I had been mindlessly washing dishes. "What is there to talk about, Sarah? You cheated on me. You lied to me. How can we possibly fix this?" She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I know I made a terrible mistake. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, but we need to find a way to move forward, for the kids' sake." "Move forward?" I repeated bitterly. "How do we move forward from something like this?" "I've started seeing a therapist," she said quietly. "I need to understand why I did what I did, and how I can make amends. I think it would help if we went to couples therapy too." I stared at her, torn between my anger and the love I still felt for the woman who had been my partner for so many years. Could therapy really help us rebuild the trust that had been so thoroughly shattered? "I'll think about it," I said finally, turning back to the dishes. The idea of therapy gnawed at me. Part of me wanted to save our marriage, to find a way back to the happiness we once shared. But another part of me, the part that had been so deeply hurt, wanted nothing more than to leave and start anew. One day, as I was dropping the kids off at school, I saw Jack. He was standing by his car, looking as miserable as I felt. We hadn't spoken since that night, and the sight of him stirred a fresh wave of anger. I parked the car and walked over to him, my fists clenched. "John, he started, but I cut him off. "Save it, Jack. I don't want to hear your excuses. You were my friend. I trusted you." He looked down, shame etched on his face. "I know, and I'm sorry. It was the biggest mistake of my life. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I regret it every single day." "Good," I said, my voice cold, "because I don't think I can ever forgive you. Or her." Jack nodded, his shoulders slumping. "I understand." I turned away, my mind a tumult of emotions. As I drove home, I thought about what Sarah had said about therapy. Maybe it was worth a try, if only for the sake of the kids. That evening I sat down with Sarah. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began. "About therapy. I don't know if it will help, but I'm willing to try. For Emma and Liam." Her eyes filled with tears of relief. "Thank you, John. I promise I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." We started therapy the following week. It was excruciating at first, reopening wounds that were still raw and painful. Our therapist, Dr. Turner, helped us navigate the tangled mess of our emotions, encouraging us to communicate openly and honestly. "Why, Sarah?" I asked during one session. "Why did you do it?" She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know, John. I was feeling lost and disconnected. Jack was there, and I made a horrible mistake, but it wasn't because of anything you did. It was my own weakness." Her words stung, but they also brought a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't about me or our marriage. It was about her and her own struggles. Understanding that didn't make the pain go away, but it helped me see a glimmer of hope. Months passed, and slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the anger and hurt seemed insurmountable. But for the sake of our children, we kept going. We worked on our communication, our trust, and our intimacy, trying to find a new normal. One day, while playing in the backyard with Emma and Liam, I looked over at Sarah. She was watching us, a soft smile on her face, and I realized something. Despite everything, I still loved her. The road to forgiveness was long and hard, but I was willing to walk it step by step for the sake of our family. In time, the wounds began to heal. The scars remained, a reminder of the pain we had endured, but they also symbolized our strength and resilience. We had been through hell, but we were finding our way back, together. But getting to this point wasn't a straightforward journey. It was marked with intense struggles, moments of doubt, and countless times when I questioned if it was worth fighting for. Looking back, the story was more complex, layered with emotions and decisions that led us to where we are now. After that night at Jack's house, the following morning felt like waking up in a foreign world. I remember standing in our bedroom, staring at the space where Sarah used to sleep beside me, a hollow feeling in my chest. The kids were still asleep, and the house was unnervingly quiet. My mind raced, replaying the scene I had witnessed, trying to make sense of it all. Sarah eventually emerged from the guest room, looking as exhausted and broken as I felt. We exchanged a brief, painful glance before she went to the kitchen to start breakfast. I followed her, needing to confront her once more, to try to understand how everything had gone so wrong. "Sarah," I began, my voice raw with emotion. "I need to know. How long has this been going on?" She turned to face me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "A few months," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It started when Emily went to visit her parents. Jack and we were both lonely, and one thing led to another." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "How could you do this to us? To our family?" She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I don't know, John. I was feeling so disconnected and Jack was there. I know it's not an excuse, but it happened. And now I regret it every single day." I wanted to scream, to yell at her for destroying our lives, but instead I stood there numb and helpless. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I didn't know how to move past it. The days that followed were filled with awkward silences and painful conversations. Sarah and I tiptoed around each other, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy for the kids' sake. But the tension was palpable, and Emma and Liam could sense that something was terribly wrong. One evening, as I was tucking Emma into bed, she looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Daddy, why are you and Mommy so sad?" Her question broke my heart. How could I explain to a 7-year-old the complexities of betrayal and broken trust? "Mommy and Daddy are just going through a tough time, sweetheart," I said gently. "But we love you and Liam very much, and we're trying to figure things out." "Will everything be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. I forced a smile, stroking her hair. "Yes, Emily, everything will be okay. It might take some time, but we'll get through this." As the weeks went by, Sarah and I started attending therapy sessions with Dr. Turner. It was a slow and painful process, but it forced us to confront our issues head-on. Dr. Turner helped us peel back the layers of our relationship, exposing the deep-seated problems that had led to Sarah's infidelity. "John," Dr. Turner said during one session, "what do you think led to the breakdown in your relationship?" I hesitated, unsure of where to begin. "I don't know. Maybe we stopped communicating. We got caught up in the daily grind of work and parenting, and we forgot to take care of our relationship." Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I felt so lonely, John. I know it's not an excuse, but I needed someone to talk to, someone who understood what I was going through, and Jack was there." Her words stung, but I knew there was some truth to them. We had drifted apart, each of us absorbed in our own lives, neglecting the bond that had once held us together. Over time, we began to rebuild that bond, brick by painful brick. We made a conscious effort to communicate more, to share our thoughts and feelings openly. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the pain and anger threatened to overwhelm us, but we kept going, determined to find a way back to each other. One evening, as we sat on the porch after putting the kids to bed, Sarah reached for my hand. "Thank you, John," she said softly. "Thank you for giving us a chance to heal." I squeezed her hand, feeling a flicker of hope. We still have a long way to go, but I'm willing to try, for our family. Our journey toward healing was filled with ups and downs. There were moments of progress, when we felt like we were moving forward, and there were setbacks, when old wounds were reopened. But through it all, we never gave up on each other. One particularly difficult night, I found myself alone in the living room, staring at a photo of our family from happier times. The smiling faces seemed like a distant memory, a stark contrast to the turmoil we were experiencing now. I felt a surge of anger and sadness, and I knew I needed to talk to someone who understood. I picked up the phone and called David, a close friend who had gone through a similar experience. He answered on the second ring, his voice filled with concern. "Hey, John, how are you holding up?" I sighed, rubbing my temples. "It's been tough, David. I don't know how much more of this I can take." "I hear you, man. It's not easy, but you're stronger than you think. Remember, you're doing this for your kids. They need you to be strong." His words resonated with me. I had to be strong for Emma and Liam, no matter how difficult things got. They were the reason I was fighting to save our family. As the months went by, Sarah and I continued our therapy sessions and worked on rebuilding our relationship. We learned to communicate more effectively, to listen to each other's needs and concerns. We also made a conscious effort to spend more quality time together as a family, creating new memories to replace the painful ones. One day we decided to take a trip to the beach, a place where we had always found solace and happiness. Emma and Liam were thrilled, their excitement contagious. As we walked along the shore, the kids collecting seashells and splashing in the waves, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. Sarah and I sat on a blanket, watching the kids play. She reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away. "Thank you for coming here," she said softly. "It means a lot to me." I looked into her eyes, seeing the sincerity and remorse in them. "It's a start, Sarah. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm willing to try." Our time at the beach was a turning point. It reminded us of the love we once shared and gave us hope for the future. We returned home with renewed determination to make our marriage work, to rebuild the trust that had been broken. There were still challenges ahead, but we faced them together. We learned to forgive, to let go of the past, and to focus on the present. Our love was not the same as it had been before, but it was stronger in its own way, forged through pain and resilience. Years later, as I sit here writing this story, I am filled with gratitude for the journey we've been on. It was a journey marked by betrayal and heartache, but also by growth and healing. Sarah and I are still together, and our bond is stronger than ever. We have created a new life for ourselves, one built on a foundation of trust, love, and mutual respect. Our children, Emma and Liam, have grown into remarkable young individuals. They are a constant reminder of why we fought so hard to save our family. They have seen us at our worst, but they have also seen us rise above the challenges and come out stronger on the other side. As I reflect on our journey, I am reminded of a quote by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. "The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen." Our story is not a fairy tale. It is a story of real people with real struggles and real emotions. It is a story of betrayal, but also of forgiveness. It is a story of pain, but also of healing. It is a story of loss, but also of hope. And in the end, it is a story of love, the kind of love that endures, that grows stronger through adversity, and that never gives up. As we sit on the porch watching the sunset, Sarah and I hold hands, our hearts filled with a deep sense of peace and gratitude. We have been through hell, but we have come out the other side stronger and more connected than ever. Our journey is far from over, but we are facing it together, with love, resilience, and hope for the future. The story of Sarah and me is not unique. Many couples face challenges and betrayals that test the very foundation of their relationships. But what makes our story special is the way we chose to confront those challenges, to face the pain and work through it together. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I wanted to give up. But looking back, I am grateful that we chose to fight for our family, to rebuild what was broken, and to create a new life filled with love and hope. As the years go by, I have come to understand that life is full of unexpected twists and turns. We can't always control what happens to us, But we can choose how we respond. We can choose to let the pain and betrayal define us, or we can choose to rise above it, to find strength in our struggles, and to build a future filled with love and resilience. In the end, it is our choices that define us. And I choose to live a life filled with love, hope, and forgiveness. I choose to hold on to the people I love, to cherish the moments we have together, and to never give up on the things that matter most. Our story is a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of hope. And that no matter what, we have the strength to overcome, to heal, and to build a future filled with love and happiness. As I look at Sarah, I see the woman who has been by my side through it all. The woman who has faced her own demons and come out stronger. The woman who has shown me the true meaning of love and forgiveness. And I am grateful for every moment we have shared, every challenge we have faced, and every victory we have achieved together. Our journey is far from over, but I know that whatever comes our way, we will face it together, with love, resilience, and hope for the future. And that is the greatest gift of all.
Thank you for watching and subscribe to the channel.